everyone. We are here today to talk about the importance of your thoughts and how to recognize them, choose them, and recognize when you're thinking a thought pathway that isn't helpful for yourself. And it's so funny because I never knew that for so long. And just thought, whatever you thought was whatever you thought, and that's just the way it went. I didn't realize that we could choose to have much more control over our thoughts, and guidance would probably be a better word than control, because you're not trying to, you know ah I can't think that thought, but more or less of, is that a pathway that I really want to go down? And the purpose in that is negative thought pathways, which can come from all kinds of different places. From, the most common one, honestly, is often the voice in our heads. And then, there's so many others. There's, if you have a teacher or a coworker or a boss or a parent or a sibling who's particularly critical of you, and you're taking that in and you're taking it personally, and that is affecting, your thought process about yourself, then, and that's not, how do I say this? That's not really on them so much as it on us to learn not to take things personally. One of the things that's so wonderful in the book called The Four Agreements is, one of the things they talk about is never take anything personally. The reason for that is realizing that people's opinions of you is actually based on their own experiences and perceptions from when they were born all the way up. And so it's never really about you, it's about their perception of you, which isn't necessarily you. So that's a really important thing to understand in terms of learning to not take things personally. For so many years of my life, I took things personally, and I definitely did not feel worthy and had a giant negative voice in my head all the time. Um, and life was a lot more challenging than it had to be because of that. The beautiful thing now is understanding that process and understanding that the thoughts that I think matter, and that I can be thinking thoughts, even thoughts like, say, I watched the news and it was really negative, and I'm going down that pathway, and then I'm like, do I really want to think these thoughts? Is this really what I want to produce in my life? And no. So then I have to think about how to change the subject. What would I rather think about? What could I think about instead? How could I see it in a different light if I'm on that same subject? And sometimes you really, especially something, not something like the news so much usually, but something closer to you, you have to change the subject, because that particular subject's hard to think positive thoughts around. And that's okay too. You keep working and getting yourself in a better place. Feeling, and it's important to connect your thoughts with how you feel, because how you feel is such an important part of knowing whether the thoughts you're thinking are good or not so good for you. If they make you feel bad, then they're not productive thoughts. And you're disconnecting yourself from your source energy, from God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, because that's, believe it or not, that's all positive energy. There's no judgment there. You're 100% worthy and loved and exactly as you should be, and so is everyone around you. So at the same time, when you're thinking negative thoughts about other people, it has the same effect. You don't feel good inside. And the goal is to learn to recognize that how you're feeling has a whole lot to do with what you're creating in your life. If you're bringing in good things and magic and so much wonderful things, or if you're bringing in more difficulties and challenges and difficult people. Even when you spend a lot of time talking about someone who's a challenge in your life, you're attracting more of that, in that vein of negativity and criticism. And so sometimes you just, if there's someone who is in that space in your life, you have to find a way to focus on, either focus on good characteristics in that person, whatever you can find, or focus on releasing them and letting them be, and focus on other good people that you received from that. What came out of that interaction, what positive came out of that interaction, so that you can feel better, because feeling better has everything to do with what you attract. So that's, one of the ways that you start to change your thoughts is becoming aware of how your thoughts connect to how you feel and how important it is to feel really, really good or as good as you can in the situation. If you're dealing with grief or a loss, then the goal is just to feel the best that you can in that moment, which doesn't have to be great, but maybe you can come up with a better thought than the one you were thinking. Like maybe I can feel better in a little while, and things that you're grateful for, either people around you or that you had that love. Um, Anything you can think about that makes you feel a little bit better is the importance of how you change your thoughts. And the other thing is that you don't want to just get up and jump into the world, right? And then the first thing that hits you is negative, and then you're in that space all day because you know how that feels, and it's not very fun. So if you get up with just a few minutes to get yourself into a positive space, read something positive, do some meditation, journal something positive, write an appreciation journal, get yourself in the best place possible where you're looking forward to the day and you're excited about the day and you feel good about the day, because this will help you recognize when something doesn't feel good, right? And so you can get yourself back. And now, I mean, it's an ongoing process for sure. It's never ending. So now I will find myself laughing at something. I'm like, okay, I can see that this frustrating thought process is creating this frustrating outcome, right? And I can laugh about it and realize that I have to change my attitude in order to get to a easier, better solution. And it can be as hard as I want it to be by being frustrated and aggravated, or taking a step back, taking some deep breaths, trusting that it's all going to work out, and letting that flow come and the right things come, and then it goes so much easier. And it's really kind of fun. It becomes more of a game to me. It's kind of why I call it the reframe game, which is a tool that I have, because reframing your thoughts changes your life. And it's absolutely magical to learn to do that. And it really can be a lot of fun, because life gets more fun when you can make it a little bit of a game, and when you can not beat up on yourself so much as notice things. Oh, look what I did and look what I'm producing. Oh, well, I can change that. I get to choose to change that. When we beat up on ourselves, we actually are creating more of that negative pattern, right? Which is not what we want, and it isn't the way we would want to nurture our children or anyone else around us. So we need to do the same kind things for ourselves and be kind and patient with ourselves when we're off track. But notice, right? Notice. I didn't used to have a clue. I didn't know that I was creating a lot of my bad days or bad moments or, bad months by the way I was thinking, and the thought processes and the conversations I was having. And as you get better at that, you attract people who want to have more positive conversations, and you begin to live in a different space because you continue over and over again. What happens is, if you've been spending a lot of time with people who, spend a lot of their conversation gossiping about others, you start to choose to move away from that, because talking bad about others, and most of gossip is not usually positive, is just as negative as talking bad about yourself. And listening to it is the same as talking. It's not any better, because you're allowing that conversation to go on. And so, the more you choose to step away from that and not participate in that, then you start to attract people who want to talk about their activities and their joys and their hobbies and what they're going to do next. And they're not talking about other people unless they're lifting them up. Oh, did you see that wonderful thing so and so did? Wow, isn't this great? So you lift each other up and you support each other, and you look for people like that who are active and excited about life and looking for ways to grow and improve. And you start to create a circle around you that's more in the line, and it gets easier, right? Because now more and more of your conversations tend towards the positive side anyway. because you're not around a bunch of people who are talking about how the world is terrible compared to the way it used to be. And as you age, you can fall into that mindset. Some people do. And that's a choice. We get to choose. We get to choose our thoughts. And that's the thing. I never really knew. Like, you just jumped into the conversation with whatever other people were talking about. Now you're like, wait, is that a conversation I want to have? Or is it a conversation I don't want to have? It's very cool to realize you have that choice. Very empowering, I think, because I never used to realize that. You choose, do I want to continue this conversation and become more aware of what conversations are about? And that's crazy, but conversations can become so second nature that you're not really paying that much attention. It's like, is this a positive conversation or is this a negative conversation? It can be neutral too, which is fine, but wanting to stay more on the positive side and stay away from criticism and negative thinking, it's hugely impactful to what you bring into your life. And it can create so much joy. So I hope that you can take some tidbits away from this to use these tools to start to change your thoughts and be aware of your thoughts, be aware of how you're feeling when you're thinking those thoughts, because that can make a giant difference in your life. And you are absolutely 100% worthy. You are absolutely worthy of changing your thoughts and changing your life and living an extraordinary life every single day. And I hope you have a wonderful week. And if you weren't on the live, I hope you have the chance to come back and listen to the live and give me your thoughts on what changing your thoughts does for you, or if you can see how, if you have any questions, anything you would like to add to the conversation, that would be fantastic. Have a great day and have a wonderful week. Thank you.